freak, and you're very right about the fact that that was pretty much the Kerp show. Actually, in Champions League, we were talking about how we absolutely loved Unicorns of Love's team composition, that we felt like in Champions League, they had come out with a more decisive composition. They knew what they wanted to do. But then as soon as we got into those level ones, there were some early misplays that made it very hard for them to execute on what they wanted to do.
Yeah, going into the game, we saw that Unicorns of Love actually had the better team comp because Millenium's team comp was all on whether Kerp got rolling on Fizz or not. And level 1, you saw that Lee Sin queued in, got chunked to like 20%, and then they saw that the Lucian Nami was going top. And Lucian Nami typically has a pretty good 2v2. Nami's basically makes any lane good, and Lucian's naturally a lane bully. So I was surprised that Unicorns of Love decided to send their 2 top when they could have just sent their 2 bottom. And having control of bottom side allows you to control that dragon and control the early game more. And even though it's an Irelia and a Mundo, you saw that he didn't really get that far ahead early. So even though Lee Sin was going bottom, trying to like get him ahead, it didn't really matter. And I don't really think Unicorns of Love had that good of an early game plan. They should have realized mid lane is what matters. Fizz versus Ahri. Whoever gets ahead, it's an assassin versus assassin. Back to Season 3. Like, whoever gets ahead in that lane is going to snowball the game. One-shot the supports, one-shot everyone. And you saw Kerp doing that. He was going off after he got that. They got the 2 kills mid, and he just kept rolling further and further ahead.
Absolutely. We saw, as you said, Lee Sin go bottom after taking Millennium's red buff in an attempt to get his Aurelius, rolling in that 1v1, but Kha'Zix decided to counter that by going mid, getting that early first blood. At 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, you get a first blood onto your Fizz on top of blowing Ahri's flash. I mean, that was a huge play in terms of allowing for consecutive ganks afterwards.
Yeah, as soon as they got that flash and the kill, Fizz hit 6 before Ahri, ults him, another kill, double kill.
We actually have that replay. We're going to pull that up. It's about 6:40 into the game. It's perfectly timed because by securing that first blood, essentially you're giving Kerp not only more gold, you're giving him that experience advantage. Knowing that he's going to hit 6 first, Kha'Zix timed it perfectly, comes back to the lane. We're going to roll the clip out now. Zion, if you could walk us through it.
Yeah, so knowing Ahri's flash is already down, Fizz hit 6 first, easy fish setup. Kha'Zix flashes to secure, to make sure the E lands, and then Ahri instantly just blows up, and then they clean up Lee Sin as well.
And there's even, the attempted counter gank. So, you have to, Lee Sin has the right idea. He knows that that's coming, but it doesn't matter at that point because the level 6 to the level 5 Ahri, it's just like you're not going to come back in that 2v2. And so, given that, now you have a Fizz 3-0. That gives you so much map control, especially on the bottom side, because your bot lanes have been sitting up top just farming away that whole time.
Yeah, you saw as soon as they got the advantage, immediately after that double kill, they go secure the red buff. They have complete control of the map. When you have an assassin that far ahead and you have that roaming Kha'Zix jungle, you can just group up together and control the rest of the map. And Millenium kind of had that early game plan. They knew what they wanted to do, get the Fizz rolling. Unicorns of Love, let's gank a Mundo, and that really didn't turn out that well. And I think Unicorns of Love just need to realize, okay, we had the better comp. Let's see what we can do early game to have a good plan going in with our comp so we can transition well, because I think they had the much better comp than Millenium. Millennium's like, Kerp, please get ahead on Fizz and get really fed. And you saw that. He got so fed, and he was just able to just take control of the game. And if Unicorns of Love can pick a decent comp again and then have a good early game plan, I think they can actually do pretty well. But they were also giving up a lot of dragons mid-game. But I think if they have a better advantage, they might be able to transition a lot better than they did this first game.
Yeah, I like the idea that they should have opted into the standard match, or into the 2v1s, saying that, hey, we have a hyper carry Tristana. Let's not let her get bullied around by Lucian, Nami. And Aurelia, she's going to be fine. She'll be able to 2v1. All right, Mundo, whatever, he's going to scale, but Tristana will scale right alongside that. And then let's put our jungler focus mid lane. If they had done that, not only would they have perhaps kept the Fizz down a bit more, they also would have had dragon control because their bot lane would have been on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, it seems like they didn't really react that well. They're like, oh, it's Lucian, Nami going top. Let's send our 2 tops so Irelia gets the 1v1 against Mundo. And instead they could have been like, hey, let's look at this from an objective standpoint. And if they send their 2 top, we send our 2 bottom. Our hyper carry, not only does our hyper carry get farmed, we can also secure the dragon and put more pressure mid with having our support roam mid as well. And they kind of just decided to match the lanes into what looked like was the worst lane for them.
One other quick thing that I want to touch on before we move into our next replay is the build coming out of Kerp, because it's interesting because it's very safe. And given the fact that he came out with so many kills early in the game, a lot of people are like, build damage, build damage, build damage. He built Sorkshoe's Sheen, and then after Sheen, he went straight into an Hourglass before going into a Lich Bane. So he chose to go for less damage, more security, almost in an attempt not to throw.
Yeah, exactly. Usually, typically on Assassin, you don't want to go a defensive item second. You usually want to go for like Rabadons or even DFG, yeah. And he went in Hourglass because he was so fed that he could build a defensive item and still scale well and do a lot of damage. And that was kind of the anti-throw build there. And Kerp just was strong enough to do it. And it made it really hard for him to like mess up in a team fight.
I do want to hop into our second replay, which is the point at which Millenium kind of secured their lead. It's in the bottom lane, about 42 minutes into the game. If you can just walk us through this one, it's fairly straightforward, but just the play-by-play, if you will.
Yeah, so Unicorns of Love was just giving up a lot of objectives, and they finally decided to go for a push bottom, and then Mundo kind of just walks up, and at this point, he's just like an unkillable tank. They land the tidal wave, and basically Fizz just instantly pops Thresh. Now it's 5v4 already. Mundo's still like half health, and he's chugging along, so he can just step up. He gets actually really low. Lee Sin gets bait. Oh, Lee Sin trades his life for Mundo, but at the end, it doesn't really matter because Kerp just blows Tristana up immediately.
This also shows the ability of Millenium to chase. You know, you have the move speed buffs from Nami there, so when they did finally get that fight where they got the first kill pretty cleanly, Unicorns of Love just ended. They were on the run at this point. You've got Kha'Zix resets plus his W, like the evolved. He finally evolved the W because he actually evolved Wings first, but he evolves that W. He gets the chase potential, and they just kind of run him down. They ended up securing Baron off that. And then pretty much, you know, as we were actually commenting, they didn't have much of a siege comp. But with that lead, they were able to effectively siege having the Baron buff.
Yeah.
I do want to jump into next game, though, because we only have a little bit more time. So I want to talk about what needs to be done in order to pull out a win here for Unicorns of Love, tie this series up. We've already touched a little bit, like coming in with a bit more of a game plan. Do you think it is, again, just like don't put too much stock into the fact that you lost this game? Let's pick another solid composition like we already did. Let's have confidence in our picks and bans, but then let's play out the early game smarter.
I typically think the second game in a best-of-5 is the most important because the higher seed gets the blue side first game, and I kind of feel like blue side gives that slight advantage. And the second game is really where they can turn it around and bring the heat back on. And what Unicorns of Love had, they had the better draft phase, and I think they can get that again on blue side. And Millenium really likes to have those assassins mid, and they don't really have a lot of wave clear when they pick these assassins. So if Unicorns of Love can get a decent siege comp going, and they can have like a decent like idea of what they want to do going into the early game and where they want their jungler to be, I think they can transition well into like a mid game where they just siege down turrets. And Millenium has, if they have decent disengage, when Millenium engages on them with an assassin, then they can just constantly siege and constantly pick them apart. And I think a siege comp would work really well for Unicorns of Love right here.
All right, well, Millenium looked determined to stay in the LCS in Game 1, but Unicorns of Love may have something to say about that. It's Game 2, shortly after the break. Stay with us.
The Shark hits, Power of Evil, half health and Gilius. Maybe didn't want to do that one. He's got to flash away, and Kerp gets the double kill.
Can we finish it? Can we finish it? I can stun. Go.
Yeah,
nice.
Now your belt. Good. I got him. Is this enough, though? There's the Zonias. Kevin in the front line, still tanking. Sharp catches them. Kerp will go down as well. Double kill for Power of Evil. Oh my god, Kerp goes in, Vizichachi goes down to Cretan, and the chase is on. Gilius bubbled beautifully. Respawn in him hook.
Oh, double bubble.
Double bubble gonna knock down Hillsong pretty quick. In goes Kerp for Power of Evil. Shark gets Vizichachi, and there's 2 kills already picked up.
Oh, I'm fine.
Finish this game. Come in. Done.
Just close him.
Very nice. Beautiful game. And that's our first game, which you believe.